Live on YouTube.
What's up, Tube?
Tube.
Going on, Tubers. Birdland BS Nation. BLBS.
We are live on Facebook.
What's up, Facebookers? YouTubers.
And last but not least, we are live on Twitter
And
Periscope.
what's up, Tweeps?
Tweets.
Isn't that a word? If not, I just made it up. I think I've heard it before.
All right, man.
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Fred and Scott getting ready to go live here with episode 68. Just pulling this up on my iPad here. All right, Scott, I am ready whenever you are, my friend.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. This week on Birdland BS, it's episode 68, Wednesday, October 24th. The Ravens lose a heartbreaker to the Saints, but we're on to Cam Newton and co. The Terps get shut out by the Hawkeyes, and some MLB chatter. Stay tuned.
It's that time, so let's take it to the Birdland. That Baltimore home flavor is coming firsthand. Fred, Scott, and Ryan, tell them the word, man. Mixing a little BS to make it work, man. Boys, they got it. On excitement, the topic. Make sure when they toss you the ball, you don't drop it. With all that swag, you're gonna listen regardless. Here comes the pitch, so it's time to get it started. It's Birdland BS.
BS. What's up, Birdland BS Nation? Fred and Scott in the studio, episode 68. It's gonna be an emotional one. We'll get there. But this week's episode brought to you by John Scheffenacher of Cummings & Co. Realtors. Are you looking to buy or sell your home? Do you want someone you can trust to go to bat for you? Go see our guy John Scheffenacher over at Cummings & Co. Realtors. John's been in the business for 4 years now and is dedicated to getting you the best deal possible. Always willing to take your call and be available for you anytime, day or night. For you Birdland fans out there, you may know him as the sunglass guy sitting behind the dugout at Camden Yards. So give John a call today at 443-604-6298.
Yeah, Fred, my wife and I actually used John when we bought our house 3 years ago. He's always willing to take your call. Heck, I've said it before, I'll say it again. We called him while the man was on vacation, and he got us into the house that we wanted to see, and it was the house that we wound up buying. Not only is he a strong negotiator who's willing to get you the best deal, but he also takes care of you after the fact, too. He's got plenty of client events throughout the year planned, and with November coming up, Thanksgiving, I know I'm going to be getting my hand-delivered pecan pie from him. You know I love me some pecan pie.
Hell yeah.
Some good stuff. So don't hesitate to give John a call, 443-604-6298, or you can email him at johnscheffa@gmail.com. That's JONSCHEFFA@gmail.com. And don't forget to let them know Birdland BS was the one that sent you.
Tucker's extra point to tie the game. The kick is up, and it is no good! No good! It drifted wide right.
Yeah, that's right, Ravens fans. Unfortunately, the Ravens lose a heartbreaker to the Saints, 24-23 on a missed extra point by Mr. Automatic himself, Justin Tucker.
Yeah, that was tough. That was a
Tough
one.
pill to swallow there, man. You know, look, a lot of people out there in Raven Nation giving Justin Tucker a hard time. When I say automatic, this guy is about as automatic comes. Hasn't missed an extra point since his sophomore year of high school.
The man is so automatic that the announcers afterwards admitted they weren't even paying attention to the kick at first.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll take this one on the chin. Here you go, Ryan and Christy, for you guys out there. So Ryan and Christy, we went to the Ravens game. We have season tickets, and we're sitting there. We're all excited. Joe Flacco throws the touchdown to, pull him within one. Ryan and Christy, Ryan, obviously our co-host, his wife, Christy, big Justin Tucker fans. So I look over to him, and I'm like, your boy better not miss this extra point. Ryan looks right at me and goes, why the hell would you say that? Why would you do that? Who says that? I had no fear.
Fred apparently says that.
I had no fear. I'll take this loss right on the chin, man. You can put it on me, Birdland. Put it on me. I jinxed the man, apparently.
Get on him, everybody, now.
You go back and you look at this kick, man. I mean, and he said it. Everything about this kick looked right. I mean, he lined it up right. He kicked it straight down the middle, and it looked like some force of God literally pushed this thing out of the uprights.
That thing was worse than my golf slice used to be. That's how hard of a hook it took. And it waited until it was like 15 yards, it felt like, from, 10 yards from the post, and then just veered right. Not today.
Unreal. I mean, it's just, you kind of take Tucker for granted, and you take those extra points for granted. How many other teams probably sweat it out week in and week out when it comes down to that situation? That's something we haven't had to worry about in a very long time. It's 7 years of automatic now with Tucker. Yeah. And look, he was bound to miss a kick at some point. It's just the timing of it was awful.
The guy's career, for his career in all kicks, he's got like a 91 or 92% accuracy. Yeah. He's one of the he is at this point most. He is the most accurate kicker of all time. Yeah. And in my opinion, he is probably the greatest and most valuable kicker of all time. And that's
see Christy chiming in. Fred head. Are you over it yet, Christy? I know you were mad at me there. Yeah, Brady.
Brady's joining in on you as well.
Yeah, it was rough.
And Connor says he won't get on you. He's going to blame the announcers for the Fox. But yeah, look, the guy had 223 or 222 straight points in the NFL, point after attempts.
That's not accounting all his point after attempts in college as well.
Right, exactly. And so you know what? It's how he responds to adversity.
Yeah.
How does he respond coming through, moving forward? It can't get in his head. If it gets in his head, then you know what? That's where everything's going downhill.
One of the things I really will give Tucker a lot of credit on. Tucker faced the media like a man.
That he did.
And I mean, he stepped up and he took it like a man, and he did it for a very good reason.
All right, well, I'll just say this. I'll offer this to you guys. Every kicker, every football player is going to come across a moment, a challenging moment. Every kicker is going to, if you play long enough, you're going to have a kick that you want back, and tonight was that night for me. But like Joe said, the only thing that we can do is just go to work and try to make, the best out of a bad situation. I appreciate the efforts of my teammates putting us in a position to extend the game. And unfortunately, I just wasn't able to put the ball through the uprights. But more than anything, I just wanted to be here as a, I don't know, if I was going to ever teach my son or any young person about accountability, I felt like it was really important that I, stand up here and answer whatever questions you guys may have.
And he did. For about 8 to 10 minutes, he answered every question that the media had until they didn't have any
I was
more.
sitting there going, dude, get him off the podium. Like, seriously, get him off. He doesn't need to be standing up there that long for that. After all that, like, how many times can you ask the same question? Like, right. What are you going to ask?
How many different ways can you ask the same
question? Exactly. That's all it was.
Yeah.
So, for me, I have much respect for him, and I think he had a great point on his reason for doing it. That is the best way to teach. And when your kicker faces music and says, yep, my fault, I did it. There's only one other kicker that I've ever heard do that, and that was Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
And so for him to come out as the most accurate kicker of all time and face the music, that sets a tone for the team.
Yeah.
It's not just for his family. It's not just for young kids out there, young athletes. That is for his team. That's what he ultimately, in my opinion, did it for. He's showing his team, this one's on me. And you know what? I got to respect the team because their team responded and put their arm around and said, it ain't your fault. Well, we missed some other spots. Jimmy Smith was the first one to say, look, I had some penalties on me. Those are on me. Those are my fault. But it just tells you the type of person that Tucker is, that we've all known he has been, but we've never really had to worry about seeing the bad side.
Yeah.
Now we have, and now we know how he responds. It's just he's got to go game time.
Last thing I'll say about the Tucker situation, because I don't think it really deserves all the media hype and everything that it's getting. Honestly, yes, it was a bad timing. The timing of it sucked. But if this would have happened in the second quarter or third quarter and it would have been a missed kick, you probably wouldn't have heard much about it just because, we had time to overcome it, that kind of thing. The timing of it was awful. Here's what I'll say. The last thing I'll say about it. I hope that this guy doesn't let it affect him mentally. Sports are super mental. I mean, 90% of this game is mental, and it could be really challenging for somebody to be able to put something like this and compartmentalize and put it in the past and be able to move on and not let it affect you. The easiest way to do that is get out there and make the next kick.
You have to, yeah.
Get out there and just forget about it, put it in the past, let it be what it was, and move on for it. And hopefully, I mean, he seems to be a pretty headstrong guy. I think he'll be able to do that. And we'll see this week when they take on the Panthers in Carolina. But that's it. That's the last thing I'm going to say. I'm not putting any blame on Tucker. Look, it sucked.
Twitter people are blaming you.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Like I said, I take this on the chin. A lot of that was
Kay Mowry says it's all your fault.
I don't know if I believe in the whole jinx thing, but nonetheless, yeah, it was awful. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit more about the game in itself. We talked about some things last week going into this game as to what were going to be some key factors to beating the Saints. Obviously, a big thing for us was accounting for Kamara and making sure that we kind of contain him and always know where he is. And I think overall, the Ravens did a pretty good job of that. Obviously, he gashed just a few times here and there, but it was either kind of boom or bust with him. It was either a decent gain or it was no gain with him.
Right.
One of his least amount of outputs that he's had all year yardage-wise, so I think we did a pretty good job of him with doing that. The other thing was keeping the pressure consistent from what we had done a week prior in Tennessee to doing the same thing with Breeze. And we failed on that. I mean, we did have the one sack, and we had a couple of quarterback hits. But, look, Drew Brees is masterful at being able to kind of maneuver in the pocket and avoid pressure and things of that nature.
Drew Brees is Drew Brees.
He's an animal. And, there was the one play. It was like a third down. I think it was either third or fourth quarter's third down. It was third down and long. And he was getting sacked. I mean, literally, I can't remember if it was Judon or if it was Suggs. Somebody had him wrapped up, and he got the ball off somehow. And I mean, it was as accurate could be, as if he didn't even get hit. And Michael Thomas caught it for the first down. It's unreal. So yeah, that was one problem, was we didn't really get a whole lot of pressure on Breeze. And the other thing was Flacco needed to play well. We knew that going into this, the Saints had a good run defense, that we were going to have to rely on the
run defense.
Yeah, that we were going to have to rely on the passing game. Their cornerbacks are suspect. And I thought Flacco played well. Could you question some of the play calling, why we didn't attack through the air a little bit more? Maybe. That's a valid argument if you want to argue that, because they could have been a little bit more. We talk about balance a lot on this show. We talk about, having a good balance between the two. This is one game that dictated throwing the ball through the air more. If Flacco would have put up 40 to 45 passes in this game, I wouldn't have been barking. I wouldn't have been upset. So that was the one area that I thought maybe we could have done a little bit, a little differently.
Right.
Marty could have, changed up the play calling a little bit more and been a little bit more pass heavy.
How much of that, I mean, just to kind of hit on that for a second, how much freedom do you think Joe has as far as audibles and play call at the line of scrimmage? Because I feel like when you look at other quarterbacks like a Drew Brees, like a Tom Brady, formerly Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, how often are you hearing them making the adjustments at the line? You hear kill from them all the time, and it's those adjustments that they're making, but you don't hear that from Joe very often.
I think he's working it into his game. For a good portion of the beginning of his career, this is what, year 10 or 11 for him now. I'd say probably the first 7 or 8 years. I mean, he was under wraps completely. I mean, he really honestly had no control over the offense as far as audibles, right. and whether that was them keeping chains on Joe or Joe just not being a guy that does that kind of thing. He didn't do it at all in the beginning of his career. These last couple years with Marty, he's kind of started to implement that a little bit. And actually, Ryan and I were talking about that a little bit while we were at the game, was that, you saw Joe going up and making audibles and changing, hot routes and things like that with the receivers. So I think it's a process. Is he ever going to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers and be able to read a defense like those? No, that he's not that kind of quarterback. He needs guidance. He needs somebody to
hold his hand,
to kind of dictate the game for him. So that would have been my one and only criticism. But man, starting this game off, Saints come out with 4 fourth down attempts. 4. First one, they did the whole fake punt and they kind of caught us off guard and they got the first down. You thought, oh wow, they're first drive of the game. That's kind of a ballsy move that to run a fake punt. Get down and they get stopped again on 4th down. They go for it again. Gets down, they stopped again on 4th down. They go for it again. They get down within the 5-yard line, go for it on 4th down, and then Hill fumbles and it backfires. And boy, was I pumped. I was so pumped at that point. I was looking at the clock, and I mean, I'm looking at Flacco on the sideline. He must be thinking, like, am I ever going to get out here? Am I ever going to get a shot in this first quarter at all? They drained 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
10 minutes. Unreal.
I was at the game with my wife, and we're sitting there, and she's like, they've had the ball for a while. And I'm like, yeah, it's been 10 minutes. I mean, it's Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And it's, what's crazy to see Drew Brees live like that is Sean Payton isn't making as many decisions as you think he is. Watching Drew Brees, and we were on the visiting sideline, about the 20-yard line, and it was not Sean Payton. It was Drew Brees would look at Sean Payton and go, put his hands up and say, I got it.
I agree with you because I saw that even from where I was, but I think that's a coach-player relationship. I think
it's a trust.
Yeah, it's a trust that they have in each other. And obviously, at the end of the day, Sean Payton has the final say. If Sean Payton don't want to go for it on 4th down, he's pulling Brees, he's pulling the team off the field. It's a comfort thing. I think Brees could see things in the defense that, he knows that he was going to be able to get a yard or get the half a yard or whatever it was if they run a certain play. So there's that trust. But, man, to go for it 4 times on the first drive of the game and then end up not getting any points, man, that was a big middle finger, in my opinion, to Sean Payton. Look, I like it. I as frustrated as I was because I wanted the Ravens to get the ball back, I like it. I think the aggressiveness is good. You're obviously 5-1 now on the season, so they're doing something right there. But yeah, I mean, I like that kind of aggressive play calling. Would have liked to have seen our defense make some plays there and make a stop, and obviously they did finally on the 4th one. But
yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing for me too is keeping in the idea of the defense, they could not handle the overall tempo of Drew Brees.
Yeah,
I think it was Suggs got the sack.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
They're back there celebrating. Drew Brees is getting the play call saying, let's go. They got back up, and they wound up getting a first down out of it.
Yeah.
After getting sacked, he winds up coming back and getting a first down because the defense was not set. They were nowhere even close to ready. Weddle is sitting there yelling at guys trying to get them in position, and nobody's paying attention because they're still celebrating a sack. Yeah. Act like you've been there before because you're going against one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Agreed. Absolutely.
You have to recognize that. And the tempo, you could just see it. He'd get up to the line. He was in 2-minute offense almost the whole game. And his tempo put the Ravens and put guys like Jimmy Smith on their heels.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
You had a good view up from where you were with Jimmy. What were you seeing with Jimmy Smith with some of those plays?
He's having trouble covering. I don't know if it's a fatigue thing for him. Obviously, he missed, the first few weeks of the season with the suspension and all that stuff. And you can lift weights all you want, you can run all you want, but there's a difference between working out and being in football shape and actually playing, a football game. That's very, very different. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's a kind of combination of things and him just kind of getting his wind back and getting his feet, because they did kind of slowly give him more and more, playing time over the last couple weeks since he's been back. This was the first game where he basically got a full workload.
Right.
And I mean, he's going up against one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it. He's going up against one of the best wide receivers in the game in Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a little handsy, got a couple pass interference calls against him. So it was a bad game for Jimmy Smith. But overall, look, I mean, we had the lead going into, we gave up 7 points. 7 points in the first half. Under 100 yards passing in the first half for Drew Brees. You just look at that and you think.
Most of it came on the first drive.
Yeah, right. You look at that and look at what we've done throughout the season so far. We hadn't given up a second half touchdown at all. I'm thinking we're in great shape.
Well, especially when they took it the step further and went 3 quarters with 7 points.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, they were driving there at the end of the third quarter to set up for that touchdown. But yeah, nonetheless, they went 3 quarters without giving up a touchdown. They gave up the 7 points early on. But that's not how the game shook out. Drew Brees is Drew Brees. He got number 500 and 501 in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Only 4 players in NFL history with over 500 passing touchdowns. That's Manning, Brady, Favre, and now Brees. 4 pretty darn good quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. All Hall of Famers. All of them.
But I think the X factor in this game, we talked about him a little bit last week, but didn't really get into detail. Taysom Hill. This kid is a problem. He's fast. He's strong.
He's a big boy.
He can catch the ball. He can run with the ball. And he can throw the ball. This is a quarterback.
Yeah.
But he's built like between a hybrid of a running back and a tight end body. And
he's like a little bit smaller Rob Gronkowski that can throw.
Yeah. And he was an issue. As much as we were able to contain Kamara for the most part, Hill kind of had his way with our defense. And there was a couple of plays where he, literally sideline to sideline, outran our linebackers, got around the edge, and got big first down gains or big third down conversions all game long.
He's the type of weapon you would hope that they would, that Lamar could have been, in that sense of he can run. He can be a little bit physical. Now, Lamar was never expected to be a physical guy, but to have that ability to get out and get past your linebackers and be like a tight end.
Right.
And I tell you what, one person he got past a few times was C.J. Mosley.
Yeah.
C.J. Mosley was having a hard time covering in the tight ends.
Yeah, that's always been C.J.'s knock, is his ability to cover. And Ben Watson and the tight ends, they exposed him. Ben Watson had a pretty big game, considering they didn't really have a whole lot of passing yards. I think Drew Brees ended up with, 220-some passing yards
like
total. So he had a pretty decent game. John chimes in and says, watching the replay on NFL Network, Flacco needs to work on his pump fake. He's getting way too many balls batted down. It's the little things like that which cost us points. You're absolutely right. That's something that we talked about last week. He leads the league in batted down passes, and it didn't stop this week.
No.
He had at least 2 that I can remember off the top of my head. And it's kind of strange because it's not been a problem of his in the past. Yes, he's had a few batted passes, but he's never been in the league lead. This is the first year where it's just been glaring that that's an issue.
It's his, to be honest with you, and it kind of goes into what John's saying, it's his release point. I think about baseball, right? It's all about your release point and where you release the ball from.
Yeah.
It's his release point. He's waiting too late to let go of that ball. And the ball, when you watch his throws, anything within a 5 to 8 yard from the line of scrimmage, from where he's throwing from, it's down. He is throwing down. That's why all these catches that are behind the line of scrimmage, these guys are catching them below their waist every single time.
Well, it's partly to that, and to John's credit here, staying with the baseball comparisons, it's kind of like a base runner trying to time the pitcher for a stolen base. The defensive line is reading Flacco and his mechanics, and it's a timing thing. Flacco's mechanics from when he sets his feet to when he comes back to throw the ball is all the same. And when you're not pump faking with the ball, you're not doing anything to disrupt that. You're not doing anything to, kind of fake the defense out. It's a timing thing. If the defensive line can time it down and put their hands up in the air because they know when you're going to throw the ball, they have a high chance of batting the ball down. So very good point, John. That's something that we've been talking about for a little while.
Yeah, and keeping with the offense, Kareem also chimes in and says, our defense played well, but why does our offense get cute? If throwing the ball is working and it's then keep it going until they stop, don't overthink it. Play calling sometimes is suspect. And I agree. We started with that, and we said that.
Yeah.
You can't, if the run game isn't working, and Collins did break off a few different decent runs, got a few first downs, but if you're able to get the ball over the middle, throw the ball over the middle, you got to stop with this Lamar stuff. I understand everybody's on their high horse because he scored that touchdown.
Right.
And I'm going, here we go. I literally threw my hands up and was like, here we go. And that my wife was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, this is going to lead the conversation that this is why we kept putting him in. This is why. No.
Right. If you're not going to use Lamar in the same type of way the Saints are using Hill, like Hill is a legitimate threat in the sense that you don't know where he's going to line up. You don't know how he's going to be involved in the play. You have no idea. When Lamar hits the field, you have basically a 95% shot that he's going to run with the ball. So you just stay on the run. Now, I mean, there's always that element of surprise that the Ravens could, eventually put in, to try to catch the defenses off guard. But how often do you really get that to work? What the Saints are doing with Hill, that's how you use a guy as a weapon if you really want to use him.
You don't use him every time you're in the red zone.
Right. If you're going to put a guy out there and risk injury, because every time you put him on the field and you use this package, we've talked about that, you're using him at a risk. At risking your future with this guy, because if he blows out his knee, you just took away his biggest weapon. Now he's got a bum knee over a gimmick play. It doesn't make sense. If you're going to run with that kind of risk, use it in the way that the Saints are using Hill. Yeah. I think that, the pack, they're two different players. Don't get me wrong. Lamar doesn't have the body build and doesn't have the strength to withstand the hits probably that a Hill does.
Right.
Because Hill is a much stronger guy. But the Lamar thing has always bothered me. It's not something that I'm a big fan of for many reasons, and we talk about it pretty much every week on this show. But yeah, it's definitely, it was good to see him get his first career touchdown. Congratulations, that's awesome. But my
opinion, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, right.
And so Sherry chimes in. She says she feels like every time we get in the red zone, let Joe run it in. It's not expected.
You're absolutely right. That wouldn't be expected. And now when we get into these short yardage situations, it's third down and a half a yard or third down and a yard. What has been working for this team, and I don't know if it's an offensive line scheme or what's been working, what the cause of it is. Joe Flacco sneaking the ball up the middle gets about 2.5, 3 yards every single time.
Yeah, he does.
Every single time. It has been 100% this year. And there were a couple times where the Ravens could have used that this past week, and they didn't. And it didn't make sense. I'm like, this is almost a guaranteed first down when you run this play. Nobody has stopped it yet. Why are you not using this? Like, I get it that maybe you don't want to put your starting quarterback out there and expose. Flacco's a big guy. Flacco can take some hits. And honestly, he gets down so quick that really nobody's going to do much to him. But it's something that has been very successful, and I'd like to see him use it more.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. We have John chimes in again. He says, do we think the Ravens will make a move before the trade deadline? He'd love a new center. Think the Raiders center is ripe for the taking.
That's actually who I was going to bring up. That's a guy that if the Raiders are really going through a fire sale because they want to get rid of a bunch of guys they've already hoarded 3 first-round draft picks for next year. So obviously their game plan.
Let's everybody pitch in and get the Raiders every first-round pick for next year. Let's just do it.
I would be all for that. Obviously, at the right price, you don't want to be giving up, mortgaging your future either. This team is going to have some salary cap issues coming up, and there's going to be some players, unfortunately, that aren't going to be here in the future, and we're going to have to rebuild in some ways ourselves. Not really rebuild, but retool in some ways. So I agree. If you can get them for the right price, that would be a hell of an upgrade for the offensive line, and I would be all for that. I kind of put a post out on Twitter that got some good feedback too. I tagged the Ravens and I tagged the Cardinals on the tweet to try to see if I could be a Twitter GM and see if I could make this happen. But I think an interesting trade would be Jimmy Smith, who has kind of been in Harbaugh's doghouse because of the suspensions. He's had some off the field issues, and obviously he's had some struggles here since he's come back. Patrick Peterson isn't happy in Arizona, so you trade position for position, young for young, and maybe send them a 3rd-round pick as well, because they're not going to just trade Peterson for Jimmy Smith straight up.
No.
You got to send them something, and I'd like to send them a 3rd-round pick for that or something along those lines, and you get one of the best shutdown corners in the NFL in Patrick Peterson. He's a gamer, and he's actually got a pretty cap-friendly deal considering he's the top corner in the NFL or one of the top corners in the NFL. That would be a move that I'd love to see, and I'm sure a lot of other fans out there would love to see. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if Ozzy's got some tricks up his sleeves here in his last gig as GM.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. It'll be interesting to see, what they wind up doing. Connor brings up a good point. Didn't the Ravens stock up on future draft picks this past draft? And yeah, I mean, they kind of did. They were getting trading back, getting some extra draft picks in order to get the guys that they did. But at the same time, those can be used as tools if you need them to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to kind of think about that.
One guy, speaking of John, I heard you just mentioned John. One guy that they need to sign now, John Brown.
Yeah, man. I mean, why haven't we even heard talks about that yet?
I don't know. Every game that passes, the price tag just goes cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's a little bit more rich for this guy. I mean, he
got to cut this guy now. Got to cut this guy now. Got to cut this guy now. That's what you got to do.
Huge game in a loss. I mean, he had the 7 receptions for 134 yards in the touchdown. A couple of big plays, big gains, just short of a second touchdown on the one that he got stopped, I want to say, on like the 2 or 3 yard line early on in the game. It was like a 54-yard gain. That guy, him and Flacco just
the connection is there, man.
Very, very good connection. I guess maybe that's the holdup with the Ravens is, does John Brown have that same kind of connection with Lamar? And are the Ravens going to go to Lamar versus Joe in the future? So why sign a receiver to 3 to 5 years if you're not sure if he's going to be the best fit for Lamar, that kind of thing? Because there's a lot of truth to that. Antonio Brown, one of the best wide receivers in football, he pairs well with Ben Roethlisberger. You put him with another...
Paired.
Yeah, well, okay. Paired. Yeah, I got you.
You know where I'm going with that.
Gotcha.
Not anymore.
Right. You put him with another quarterback and the production changes. It's all about offensive scheme and that kind of thing.
Guy's going to go to who he's comfortable with.
Still
absolutely.
A great wide receiver no matter where he goes. He's just not going to be utilized. And this is something I've been talking about on the live streams lately that we've been doing now on Monday Night Football. Julio Jones, he's another guy, a great wide receiver, and I think him and Matt Ryan have a good connection. But for whatever reason, Atlanta does not use him in the red zone. A big body receiver, a strong wide receiver, they do not utilize in the red zone, does not get touchdowns, does not make a whole lot of sense to me. And that could be the holdup with John Brown. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I don't. I was typing back to Connor here. He thought you were going a different route with John and thinking about you were going into
That's
an
right.
ad there
Go
for
see our
sponsor.
guy John Scheffenacher, Cummings & Co. Realtors.
Yeah, no, right into it. There you go.
But yeah, no, again, had a huge game. Wide receiver core did pretty decent in this game overall. The one big surprise, yeah,
Willie Snead dropping the ball, man. We weren't expecting that.
I expected him to have a big game, to kind of giving up yours to the Saints. And it started off okay, but then he had a couple of drops there, uncharacteristic.
The first one really got into his head because I could see the guys on the field chirping at him.
Yeah.
They were chirping on that first drop,
right?
And it was, I couldn't hear what was being said, but I can only imagine what was being said, And Willie Snead was kind of at that point. It almost seemed deflated that was going to happen. That he was gonna go through and say, I'm not going to be able to do what I wanted to do against this team,
right?
That he openly says he left bad terms. He left on bad terms with the team, not the players, but the team, the team management and organization itself. So it's quite interesting to see that happen for him, especially when we all anticipated a pretty big game for him.
Yeah. Well, moving on. Again, the Ravens lose this game 24-23 on a last-minute missed extra point by Tucker.
Why you got to keep saying it? Why do you got to keep bringing that up?
I did it to him. I jinxed him. It's my fault.
It's all Fred's fault.
I'll take that one on the chin. Well, the Ravens sit after 7 weeks. They sit at 4-3. Look, if you think about it this way, right? 4-3, yeah, it doesn't sound great. But we've played we're going to be playing next week. We played 5 of our last 6 games on the road. So you think about it that way. We've got a lot of home games to come. If you duplicate what we've done, go 4-3 again, now that puts us at 8-6 with 2 games left at the end of the year, one against the Chargers, which, by the way, Chargers game was flexed to 12:22. It's a Saturday night game now at 8:20 p.m. for you guys out there that didn't get the notice or didn't get the alert on the phone.
Yeah,
that game has been flexed. But you'll have 2 games at the end of the year sitting at 8-6, one against the Chargers, which is going to be a tough one, and then one at home against the Browns, which you should win.
Yeah,
you win those 2 games, you're at 10-6, and you're a playoff team.
You have to win those 2. There's no question at this point. But but it is a question because it's Phillip Rivers and the Chargers, and he has always had the Ravens' number.
They've always been good games. I won't say he's had the Ravens' number, but it definitely been good games, kind of down to the last minute. Ray Lewis, I remember, had the big stop against Aaron Sproles for to win that game, and the whole 4th and 29 thing.
But that's my point. Is defense has won those games.
Yeah, no
it's
doubt.
never been. It's never been
4th and 29 wasn't the defense. That was a lucky run by Ray Rice and a huge block by Anquan Bolden, but nonetheless. That's worse, in my opinion. It's worst case scenario. You duplicate what you did. You're at 8-6. You got 2 games, Chargers and Browns. Finish it off. You're at 10-6 to finish the year, and then you're a playoff team.
Yeah.
But we can't look that far ahead.
Nope. We got a game next week.
And it starts with the Panthers, and this isn't going to be an easy game by any means. Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, and their wide receivers that they have there can cause a whole lot of problems for some defenses.
This is Mariota amplified. You need to step up, and your DBs need to be solid on coverage.
Eric Weddle called Cam Newton a triceratops today.
I did hear that.
He's a dinosaur. The guy is an absolute physical specimen. I mean, he's fast, he's strong. I mean, he takes the most hits out of any quarterback in the NFL and has since he's been in the league. But he keeps on going, just like the Energizer Bunny, man. And that was one of the things that the Ravens talked about after the Saints game, was the fact that Kamara and the running game and Hill wore the defense down. They weren't getting a whole lot of big runs early. And again, the defense did a pretty good job, obviously, for the first 3 quarters. But later on in the game, it took a toll. It took its toll on the defense. And the Panthers are built in a very similar way, that with Cam Newton and with Christian McCaffrey, they will run the ball, and they will run it often, and they will probably be putting a lot of work on the Ravens defense.
They will. And James brings up a good point that you can't forget about Greg Olsen, because he's still a beast.
Yeah, he's still a beast, and him and Cam actually have a very good connection as well. Very good relationship there. And, he's coming back off of an injury, still kind of getting himself back into game shape. But, yeah, that's a guy that you absolutely have to account for. And if, again, the big glaring hole here is C.J. Mosley, I look for the rookie, Kenny Young, to have a big game here.
Yeah.
I think he needs to play more in this game specifically for Greg Olsen.
Yeah, no. And the other weapon that they have, Connor Burke brings up, Devin Funchess.
Devin Funchess is a big body receiver as well, man.
Him and Cam have been hooking up really well.
Yeah, I mean they've got a pretty good connection there. But Devin Funchess, he's one of those kind of possession type receivers where he can use his body to kind of get in front of a corner and create separation and make big catches. But I think if we get Marlon Humphrey back, I think Marlon can do a good job. Now, if we're going to rely on Jimmy to cover Devin the entire game, based on how he played in the Saints game, I'd be a little worried.
I would be a little bit worried too. Look, you got him, you got Brandon Carr, you got Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah.
If it's me, as long as Humphrey's good,
yeah,
it's going to be Humphrey Carr.
I've got Humphrey locking on to Funchess no matter where he is on the field all game long. Kenny Young, like I said, needs to have a big role in this game because he needs to be out on the field to be able to cover the tight ends, to be able to cover the running backs out of the backfield.
Do you have Weddle? Do you have Weddle play up a little bit more normal than usual to help out C.J. Mosley and expect Jefferson to help out on the deep balls?
That's the problem. Is Jefferson's another one that sucks in coverage. He's good against the run. He's good at the intermediate stuff, but he sucks against the deep balls. He just cannot cover.
And you can't expect the veteran Weddle to stay back there and help these guys out as much. As good as Weddle is,
right? You
can't put that much on him.
They're both good safeties, but they're both similar. They're both box-type safeties where they play in the box and they struggle deep. Where Weddle, when he's in his younger days, he had a little bit more speed to him. He could cover better. He's now kind of got to take some risks, take some gambles because he's lacking a little bit of recovery speed and that kind of thing. And we've seen that burn him in the past a few times. So this is going to be a tough game. Look, the Panthers lead the NFL right now in yards per carry at 5.2. The Ravens, 3.4. They're 31st in the league.
Yeah.
They've got to get the running game going. You got to limit how much time the Panthers have with the ball. The time of possession is going to be a big factor in this game as well. You can't let the Panthers have the ball as much as you let the Saints have the ball.
No way.
Not anywhere near as long because the Panthers will burn you. And they've got a good defense. They've got a really good defense.
You didn't have to worry as much about Breeze. While Breeze it can be a mobile quarterback, Cam's a much more mobile quarterback, and as our boy Sam on YouTube says, he's a fast dinosaur. He is quick.
He is a quick dinosaur,
and you have to account for him. You have to be able to know that he's it's going to be a run heavy, and then once you start biting in on the run, they're going to burn you deep.
Yeah,
it'll be Funchess, most likely burning you deep. And going from there. So
I think a big challenge for the Ravens here, one thing that they've been really successful so far in this year has been their offense success on third down. That's one thing that I've really noticed with this team is we have done a very good job in converting on third down. We're one of the best teams in the league in that sense. But we're going up a Carolina defense that ranks 4th against third down conversion. So that's going to be kind of a key factor in this game as well. And then it's also going to come down to how close this game's going to be and how clutch this team can be. Because when you look at it, the last 6 games for both of these teams that have been decided by 4 points or less, Carolina's 6-0 when the games are within 4 points. The Ravens, 0-6.
Yeah.
They struggle in crunch time. They struggle when it matters the most and when the games are close. I mean, you go back the past couple of years, you think of all the games that we've lost by, the miraculous extension in Pittsburgh, the extra point, the 4th and 12 touchdown to Cincinnati. There's just so many games that we lose in the last couple of minutes of a game. And this year, I was kind of, we got out of the Dean Pease era.
Right.
We got out of the whole.
Everybody was excited for that.
Playing soft and playing back, and once you get a lead, kind of just bend but don't break type thing. The whole new defensive era with Wink had looked better up until this week. This week was the first where we saw them regress later in the game.
Yeah. They need
to get back to the first.
They got to sustain that defense for the whole 60 minutes. I mean, the Saints had 2 TDs in the fourth. Carolina has, I think you said it's 5 fourth-quarter touchdowns in the last 3 games.
Yeah.
We can't afford that. This defense can't afford that. They've got to be shut down the entire game. Some of it is, I'm sure, as the season goes on, they start wearing a little bit. But the big portion of it is they've got to play that full 60 minutes. And if that means you got to give some guys some breaks early, do it. Do it early, do it often, get fresh guys out there, get fresh legs out there, and really make sure that this team can shut them down all the way through the game.
James chimes in, he says, and that's why John's got to go. I'm done with him not being able to be a head coach, and he's more of a special teams coach. I agree with you in a lot of ways there, James. I think Harbaugh, as much as I like him as a person, I think he's a great person. And I think he's a good motivator. I think he's a good coach in that sense. Where he struggles is he's a terrible in-game coach. One of the worst.
He's not a game manager.
One of the worst in-game coaches in the league. Some of the things that he does with the challenges and time, the time management and things, and just there's certain things about him that I just do not like. So I agree with you. I love John as a person. And he's definitely, like John said, he's a player's coach. But, again, it's just the in-game management that he struggles, and he struggles bad with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Ryan chimes in and brings up a good point with DJ Moore and Torrey Smith coming back.
Yeah.
Saying Terps receivers coming back home with the Panthers and going to try and show off. Yeah.
Not only that, I think they got the linebacker, too. He was like a 5th-round pick this year. Oh, man, what's his name?
That's all you, buddy.
Golly, I can't think of his name. Carter Jr. He was a linebacker at Maryland for the last couple years. He's also there too. So they got a couple of Terps connections coming back here, a trio of Terps connections. But yeah, let's get into our predictions for this week. So obviously we'll start with this Ravens game. We'll talk actually a little bit about last week. Let me get into that. So second week in a row. Clean sweep for me. Got all 4 games. Predicted the Saints would win this one 38-33. They ended up winning 24-23, so my score wasn't there. You were on. You got your Saints prediction. Ryan was off. He went with the Ravens winning 43-33. The Thursday night football game, the Broncos at the Cardinals. This was not much of a game to watch.
No, not at all.
Broncos ran away with the Thursday night game 45-10. Cardinals are in dire straits. They've got a lot of needs there in that organization. Couple of guys I feel bad for, Patrick Peterson and Larry Fitzgerald. I'd love to see Larry Fitzgerald get traded somewhere and go after a ring. But
I just don't know that he's going to want to get traded.
I don't think he cares enough. Yeah, I'd like to see him get a ring. I just don't think he gives a crap. No. Really, I don't. But the Broncos win that game 45-10. You and I had that correct. Again, Ryan goes with the Cardinals on that one, 27-24. Sunday night, which, again, I thought would have been a more closer game and a little bit more of a high-scoring game from the Bengals standpoint, had the Bengals at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs run away with that one, 45-10. All 3 of us had the Chiefs winning that game, a little bit different point spreads. Monday night football game, actually a pretty entertaining game, really. You and I did a live stream commentary of the game.
Yeah, go check it out. It's on YouTube.
Giants came in at 1-5, and the Falcons were at 2-4. All 3 of us were on the Falcons, and the Falcons ended up winning that one 23-20. So let's get into, again, this week's game. We'll go right into the Ravens game. Ravens at 4-3. It's a Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff in Carolina to take on the Panthers. Ravens, I think, win this one. I think it's a close game, but I got the Ravens winning this game 27-23. I think Tucker goes perfect. I think he has 2 or 3 field goals in this game, has a big recovery game. How do you got this one going?
Well, see, you have it as a 4-point game. Ryan has it as a 3-point game with the Ravens winning 24-21. I've got the Ravens winning 24-17. I think it's going to come down to it. It's going to be a 1-score game, but it's going to be a touchdown. I don't think it'll wind up being a field goal here. As much as I hope you say it that it happens, but then you move on to the next game, Thursday Night Football. Dolphins, who are 4-3, at the Texans, who are 4-3. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, the Texans have been they're still 4-3, but they've been a little underwhelming. I thought that they'd be a much better team by this point in the season. But, look, they're still at 4-3. That division's a mess. The Jaguars are not playing anywhere near as what I think everybody expected the Jaguars to play. Colts are the Colts. It hadn't been a very good division so far this year, so the Texans are right in the thick of things in the division. I have the Texans winning this one 22-17. Looks like Ryan has them winning as well, 27-24. What do you got?
For me, I've got the Texans winning that one, 27-21. I think it's gonna be again another closer game. Dolphins have been a little surprising for many people this year, but I think they ultimately come down. I think J.J. Watt, is too much of a threat on defense, and I don't know that Miami's going to be able to stop him. So I think it comes down to again another one-score game.
Okay. Sunday Night Football, it's got probably the best matchup of the week as far as the primetime games. It's got the 5-1 Saints, who we just saw up close and personal, taking on the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. The Vikings sitting at 4-2-1 on the year. I've got this one really close. And honestly, I could have flipped a coin on this one either way. But what I gave the edge to was I gave the edge to the Vikings only because they're home. That's how I would have looked at this. If the Saints were at home, I would have given it to the Saints. But I give it to the Vikings, and I've got the Vikings winning this one 28-26.
And see, I went the other way. Same thing. Flip of the coin for me.
Yeah.
It was literally, as I was sitting here thinking about it, I was like, I chose the Saints. I think the Saints pull this one out 30-27. I think it's gonna come down to that one last score, and whoever's got the ball last, but I think I literally think it's going to be that last. It's going to be a 2-minute drill for somebody. I just think it's going to be the Saints, and after watching Drew Brees do it to us this week, I have faith in him that he's going to do it again against the Vikings. Ryan also had the Saints winning. He had it a little bit larger score at 31-23.
Monday Night Football, this is a no-brainer here. There's no flip of the coin on this one. I don't think any of us will get this one wrong. You got the 5-2 Patriots traveling to Buffalo to take on the 2-5 Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are going to be right in the thick of things for the top draft pick this year. Don't see them winning many more games than maybe 4 on the year, if that. I've got the Patriots winning this one in a blowout, 31-13. Ryan, right there with me. He's got it a little bit more of a blowout. The Patriots winning 37-13. What do you got?
I got Patriots 35-17.
Yeah,
and the 17 was like, okay, maybe the Bills pull something out of their hat at the last minute and get the extra.
I may even be high with the 13. I really don't see them scoring many points in this game. That's a bad football team. Bad football team overall. Time for a social media shout out.
Social media.
Facebook, let's see. I'm going to go back here to the beginning and see who all I see. Obviously, Sherry, as always. Christy, yeah, I know you're giving me a whole bunch of crap. Carrie, we see you. James, as always. Brady, appreciate you tuning in. I still got your gift bag. I'm going to give that to Bill, like I said last night, so I'll make sure next time I see him, you get that. Kareem, appreciate you turning in. It's the first time I've seen you in the comments, so appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate the feedback. Nikki, as always, appreciate you. Hey, Landon, tell him I said hey. John, again, appreciate your comments and appreciate you tuning in. Let's see. Anybody else I missed? Silver Fox, first time I've seen you in there. Appreciate you tuning in. Any other ones? Ryan, your buddy Ryan, appreciate you tuning in as always. And I think that's it.
As always, we got Sherry in there. I see Lee is in there as well.
What's going on, Lee?
Steve chimed in a little bit ago, gave us a big thumbs up. We appreciate that. I also see, again, on Facebook, I think you already said most of these people. So, yeah, so it looks like you covered everybody.
Lee, stay tuned for the 2-minute warning. Shout out to you for the 2-minute warning today.
Uh-oh.
Stay tuned.
On YouTube, we've had Connor chiming in. We've had our boy Sam Jackson chiming in as well. And then I think that was it for YouTube as far as people chiming in. Plenty of people watching. Feel free to chime in, guys, whenever you feel like it. And then on our Twitter side of things, we've had a few people jumping in and out on Twitter. We've had Kay Mowry that has been joining in. D Rain, Ripken Ranger, Kyle Andrews, our
hey, what's going on, Kyle?
7. Big Play Davey Mack has joined
going on,
in.
Dave?
So plenty of people out there. Guys, feel free to always comment, join in, use the hashtag BLBSNation if you want to have a comment that you want to hear, or just straight out comment on the feeds. I would be happy to talk to you guys about it, whatever you want to hear us talk about.
On to the Terps. Let's talk a little bit of Terps football. Terps lose in pretty bad fashion as they get shut out against number 19 Iowa. Terps now fall to 4-3 on the year. It was a pretty ugly game for the Terps offensively. Iowa went into this game as 12.5-point favorites. We talked about stopping Nate Stanley. And Iowa's defense didn't disappoint. They only given up 16.5 points a game going into this one. Terps just couldn't get anything going.
No, they couldn't get anything going on offense. Sky is the limit says what's up on YouTube.
What's going on, Sky?
But yeah, no, the Terps just could not get anything going on offense at all. Kasim Hill struggling, 47 yards. Stanley with 86.
The wind was the huge factor in this game. Nobody was going to get a whole lot going on through the air in this game, which you would have thought would bode well for the Terps, with the Terps having the running attack and the rush attack that they have. But look, Terps only had 115 total yards. They had 7 total first downs.
Yeah.
7 through the yikes.
Yeah, that was just bad.
They only had 39 total plays. I think Iowa ended up having like 75 or 76 through the game. So look at those two numbers compared. It's almost double the amount of plays that Iowa had to Maryland. Again, just could not get anything going on offense.
I really don't think you can blame the defense too much on this loss either. It is number 19 Iowa that you're going against. It's not like you're going against a no-name school, so to speak. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you're kind of torn because there's some things they could have done. They kind of got beaten in some pass coverage a little bit. They couldn't stop the run in some areas. But it really, for me, came down to the offense. Just could not do anything. Iowa's front seven dominated the line of scrimmage and stuffed the Terps running attack all game long. I mean, there was nothing you can say on the offensive side of the ball that really did anything successful in this game. And
then when you're struggling offensively to get things going, like the worst thing that you can do is have big turnovers. And the Terps had the big fumble there in the end zone by Piggy that was picked up and recovered for a touchdown. That puts you in a hole there. It was just a bad game overall for the Terps. I didn't expect them to win this game. I expected it to be a little bit closer. I expected it to be a little bit more competitive. But unfortunately, the Terps put up a goose egg.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they might as well not have shown up for this one. But look, this week, coming up at home, huge game. Got to beat Illinois. Illinois comes in at 3-4. This is a must-win if you want to remain in bowl contention. We talked about it. The number is 6. The Terps have 4. You're getting down to those last couple of games of the year, and a few of these games, you're not going to win. You're not going to beat the Michigans. You're not going to beat the Ohio States. You're not going to beat those games. Terps are favored by 17, but this kind of goes back to that Rutgers game where I was kind of, Terps were big favorites in that, and I was a little nervous, but they came out and they handled their business against Rutgers. This is a team that they should beat. You look at it on paper, but you just don't know what Terps team you're going to get.
Yeah, no, you don't. And Ryan brings up a good point on the last game, by the way. He says that the defense played so many minutes, so they were just straight gassed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Like I said, I mean, when you look at the amount of plays that they played, you know, again, the Terps only had 30-some plays, whereas the Iowa had 70-some plays. The defense was on the field for the majority of that game, and they did. The defense does look legit. There's no doubt with it, but this offense is just so one-dimensional with the running attack. Kasim Hill has just been super disappointing. I thought this kid had a bright future. You know, I was I know we've talked about this before. The Dwayne Haskins thing really wasn't a reality for Maryland. It was more of a ploy to try to get more DMV players, you know, to Maryland. So it was never a real reality. And I thought bringing in Kasim Hill was going to be a good fit here for the Terps, but I don't know if it's a scheme thing, if he doesn't fit well with Matt Canada's offense or what's going on, or if it's just he's still young and he's still growing and all that. But yeah, he's been super, super disappointing so far this year.
Yeah, and Sam chimes in and says that he thinks that the Terps coach is on the hot seat. I think he's wrong on this. I don't think Canada's as much on the hot seat.
If you're talking about
DJ Durkin,
Durkin, absolutely, he's on the hot seat for a whole nother reason. It has nothing to do with how the team's playing. He's on the hot seat because, well, let's just say he wasn't doing things properly.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, we'll say that. He's but no, Canada. I think Canada's done a good job, a really good job, honestly, considering the circumstances that he's kind of been, you know, had to come to task with.
Right.
And, you know, on short notice, having to take over the team. He's came in here. This was going to be his first year as the offensive coordinator, learning a new team and implementing a new system, and then being thrusted into the head coaching role kind of out of nowhere. I think he's actually done a pretty good job. But, you know, the Terps, again, the goal this year was to get through that adversity, you know, and be able to put that aside and still get to a bowl game. And they have the potential to do it, but this is a bump in the road where they got to win this game. They absolutely have to.
I'll say this, in my opinion, even if they don't get to a bowl game, if they come one game shy, I'm still okay with it, considering the adversity they faced, the way Canada has handled the team. We're a little bit further in this. People can say, oh, well, you don't need to worry about that. You don't think DJ Durkin still has, you know, ears and eyes and a say in things? You don't understand what happens with college football.
Right.
DJ Durkin is involved, whether he's supposed to be or not.
Yeah.
And Canada, I'm sure, while he's taking that head coaching role, if and when DJ Durkin comes back to a head coaching role, even though I think, separate opinion, I don't think he should ever.
I don't think it's going to happen at all.
But at the same time, he's still technically on paper. He is still the head coach for the Maryland Terrapins. He has a say in what's going on.
Well, this week, again, it's a big game. It's going to be the battle of the running games. You've got Reggie Corbin of Illinois versus Ty Johnson and Anthony McFarland for the Terps. Neither one of these teams can throw the ball very well. Illinois has given up 34 points a game on defense. They're 510 yards per game, 222 rushing yards per game. You look at those numbers and everything says the Terps should win this game. Terps are a running team, and Illinois struggles against the run.
Right.
This should be a win. Ryan's got it 27-10 Terps. I'm right there with you, about the same score. I think I had it like 31-13 is what I had it at earlier. So we'll see what happens here. But a big game for the Terps, no doubt.
Huge game, huge game. Moving on to our fantasy football Birdland BS League. What a week.
It has not been a pleasant ride here for me in this league lately. I started out 3-0, and then I hit a 4-game losing streak as I lose to Gene this week, 84-102. And I got Troy Hayes coming up next week, and my predictions do not look good as I'm projected to lose that game 104-116. So I'm at 3-4 now on the year. Not looking good.
Yeah, no, I went up against Ryan this week. It was projected him to win 111-101. He won 118-101.
That's a pretty good projection there.
It's a pretty good, considering we always say projections mean nothing. It apparently meant something in this one. So it took me to 2-5. It took him to 4-3. So I'm going this week against the person who has been a points leader twice now in Christy, Ryan's wife. Projection is 116 to 106, I believe, in favor of her.
Yeah.
The high score this week, like you said, Troy, he had a few guys go off.
He had his entire team.
This is true.
His entire team was just consistent throughout the top down, really. I mean, the big thing, obviously, getting 32 points from your defense. He had Denver's D, I think, had 2 pick sixes in that game. So, I mean, their defense just put up a number that you don't ever see from a defense. He had Trey Burton with 24 points and Sterling Shepard with 20. But, again, just consistent. I don't think he had anybody under 15 points on his entire starting roster. So 177 points for Troy, who is who I go up against this week. I hope you have a bunch of people that are on buys, and I hope I can sneak a win out here. We'll see. Getting into our Baltimore League, we went into this game at 4-2, going up against Joe Serpico. If you recognize the name, that's at Joe Serp on Twitter. He's a reporter, editor for Fox Sports AM 1340. He's also the podcast host of Underdog Dynasty and Offside Position, and also family member of Serpico's, if you're familiar with the restaurant in Perry Hall. So if that name sounds familiar, yes, that's him.
Good food.
I ended up losing that game. I had a bunch of people on buys. This was the one game I knew I was going to lose this year. We were going to lose this year because I had drafted a bunch of people on the bye week.
Yeah, exactly.
So I makeshift the roster. But, considering, I mean, it wasn't too bad of a game when we lost by 15 points in this game. But that puts us at 4-3, and we're going up against Logan Levy. Logan, you can find him on Twitter at Real Logan Levy. He's also an editor for Be More Beatdown and the host of Take It to the Bank. Good guy, huge personality. This guy, I mean, he'll talk to you about anything and everything, and he'll give you his 100% feelings on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But, man, you know what? Something we haven't talked about much over the past few weeks, and I think it's been a breath.
I know why.
I think it's been a breath of fresh air, honestly. We haven't talked much about baseball lately, and obviously now we're getting into the World Series. We just had the first game last night, which was a pretty entertaining game up until the big 3-run home run.
Nunez.
Yeah, Red Sox beat the Dodgers 8-4 in the opener. Manny had a pretty good game. He had 3 RBIs in this game. It looks like he's not trying to crush the ball over the fence every time. He's actually playing to the circumstances and to the situations that he's up there in, sacrificing himself and sacrifice flies and that kind of thing for the betterment of the team and to get runs. So I like that.
He laid down a bunt.
Yeah. But, man, one thing we haven't talked much about on the show is some of his antics that's been kind of taking headlines lately, and some of the stuff that he's done. Obviously, he had the kick of Segura's foot at first base. And just...
Oh, you mean Aguilar?
Or, I'm sorry, yeah, Aguilar at first base. He made some comments that he's not a Johnny Hustle kind of guy, that's not him. This is a guy that's projected to make $300 or $400 million on his next contract.
Your comments are going to start turning people off. That's for
what
sure.
Are you doing? You should be doing everything to build your image in a positive way, not in the other way. Once you sign that contract, all that money's guaranteed. It doesn't matter. But this is your most important contract. This is your most important year.
This is going to set you up for pretty much the rest of your career.
Everything you are doing right now as a player is basically building your resume for your contract. And you're doing it in a negative sense. I think as some of us as Orioles fans, we can kind of really look back now with him being gone, and he's always kind of had this I'm above everybody else kind of attitude. And
we just didn't comment on it as much because Harper was right down the street.
Well, that
and Harper's Harper.
When he's on your team, you kind of tend to turn the blind eye to it and you kind of defend him.
Absolutely.
But when you really look back at some of his antics and some of the things that he did a lot of the same shit here in Baltimore. Not a whole lot has changed with Manny.
Throwing a bat, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, this year he made it He made it clear that he wanted to get more involved on social media and get out there and build more of a fan base, nationally versus just here in Baltimore.
I think it was this year or last year he even put out his own logo and everything too.
Right, yeah. So he was doing things to like build the brand, build the Manny Machado name. But like I said, through these playoffs and these last couple of weeks, he's doing everything in the opposite way to kind of tarnish it. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But we got game 2 tonight in Boston. What do you see happening in this series? Do you think Boston runs away with it? Do you think Dodgers
many people are saying Boston's going to run away with this? I think it's going to be a tight series. I'm going to say it's going at least to game 6. And for me, as much as it pains me to make this statement, I think Boston wins the World Series.
Yeah.
They are too much of a threat. They're too dominant. They're starting pitching. They're too deep at starting pitching to not look at that. The pitcher for the Dodgers tonight, Ryu. Anybody know who he is?
Yeah, right.
Didn't think so. But that's my point. Is that their starting pitching isn't up to par for Los Angeles as it is to Boston.
Boston's a good all-around team.
Absolutely, and that's the other thing I was going to say is
I hate the Red Sox. It pains me to even say that.
Yeah, the Red Sox can play. They can play the deep ball with J.D. Martinez, Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley. They can all hit the deep ball, but they can also turn around and play small ball. The other night, you had J.D. Martinez hit the deep ball out to the center and then come up. I think it was the next at bat and hit one up the middle.
Right.
And that's what you need. You need a guy that's going to produce, and that's why J.D. Martinez got paid what he got paid. Because that's the type of player he is. And that's the type of player Manny is not or was not. Because to an extent, Manny came over. And Manny this year changed it even in Baltimore. He was hitting a lot more doubles. I think he actually led the Orioles in doubles for a while.
Right.
But you saw that evolution, and that's what brought him to the next step. And that is, I think, honestly, this isn't me being a homer with Manny. Manny is the X factor for the Dodgers.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. Like I said, his play has been good. What he's doing on the field has been good. It's just Manny being Manny. That whole Manny being Manny when it was Manny Ramirez. Well, that's kind of taken on a whole new, ownership now with Machado. And Manny being Manny with some of the stupid crap that he does. I don't get it.
The questionable slides sometimes, the play at first, the arguing. I don't know if you saw it too, the arguing with the umpire when he tried to call time. He was trying to call time, and the pitcher had already started his motion. They showed it in the video, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't have granted time either.
Me either. Right.
Even if he's in Baltimore, I'm not granting him time because the pitcher has started his motion. I hate that. I hate the whole that the batter can call time. Yeah. That's a load of crap as far as I'm concerned.
Once you're in that box, you're in the box.
You're in the box, period.
Right.
The pitch comes your way. I don't care if you're not ready or not. You were in the box. You're ready.
You talk about wanting to speed the game up and that kind of thing. There's one way you can speed the game up. Once you're in the box, you're in the box. Whether it takes the pitcher a half a second to deliver and throw it to you, or it takes him 5 seconds to deliver and throw it to you, whatever. You're in the box.
Yeah.
That's part of the game, and that's part of what could help speed up the game. Not a whole lot, but every little bit counts. Every little thing that you do and you implement changes.
It does nothing. And anybody that wants to argue with me, you and I have played a little bit higher levels of baseball, and I know a few guys that have been there. Look, you don't need to call time. You're doing it to disrupt timing.
Right.
That's what you're doing, and we're talking about time.
Yeah.
So you want to shorten the game? Stop these guys from. You're in the box. You're in the box. Period. When you step, you can have 1 foot out of the box. I don't care. The second that other foot comes in the box, you better be ready.
You're locked in until that pitch is thrown.
People hate the quick pitch. I love the quick pitch.
Yeah.
And I love the quick pitch because it makes you say, when you put that other foot in that box, no more like getting your bat ready.
Right.
No. You better be ready.
As soon as that second foot's in there, you're ready.
Yeah.
You better be.
I've always believed in that. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always said that. And so that call by Manny, he got in the umpire's face. I was waiting for the umpire to throw him out. I was kind of, at that point, I was like, that was before the Aguilar play even happened. I was like, you know what? Get out of here, Manny. Like, seriously?
Right.
I don't care. It's the World Series. You're not going to stop a guy in the middle of him his windup.
Right.
You're not going to try and call time. And every props to that umpire for not calling time.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I think tonight, just going off of my prediction here, I think tonight decides the World Series. I think that if Boston wins this game tonight, Boston wins this series in 5 games. If LA can beat Boston in Boston and split the series there, I think that gives them momentum and they carry that over to home. And I think LA ends up winning this in 6 or 7 games, not 5 games. It takes 6 or 7 games to win it. But I think mentally, the second game here is going to mean a whole lot for the Dodgers. If you go down 0-2, you're kind of in a slump. And you know that team, like you said, pitching-wise, they are built to last. And you're down 0-2. But you swing the momentum to know that you just snuck one out in Boston on the road. That changes everything. It changes the mentality. I think then that gives LA a chance to win.
And I agree. I agree with you to an extent, and that's why I said 6 or 7. But the reason I think it comes down to Boston winning is if it gets to 6 or 7, you're coming back to Boston, and guess what? It's 2 weeks later or a week and a half later, and it just got colder.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And you were just out in sunny LA where you're used to playing and you're used to it being nice and comfortable all the time. And now, you got some of these guys like Puig, who apparently has come up pretty big in this game. It's in the bottom of the 5th right now, 2-1 Dodgers right now. 2 runs on 3 hits. Boston has 1 run on 5 hits. But I think it does come down to the game 6, game 7. And I think because it's at home, because it's Boston, that Boston environment, like to your point, if they can win in Boston, it's doable. But it's a hostile environment.
Oh, yeah,
Boston.
absolutely.
Very hostile.
While we're talking baseball, we got to talk a little bit of Orioles. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this. I know. Look, this sucks.
Why you always got to get me depressed at the end of the show, Fred? Jeez.
I mean, they struck out on the
literally 3 strikes and you're out.
3 strikes and you are out on the international prospects. Both Mesa brothers end up signing with the Marlins, and the pitcher Gaston, who was right there as the 3rd-rated prospect, looks like he's going to be signing with the Tampa Bay Rays. And it doesn't even sound like really the Orioles were even that serious on Gaston. Sounds like Tampa Bay put in an offer the Orioles weren't willing to match or beat, and it looks like he's going to follow the money. From
what I understand, the Orioles lowballed him. Yeah. And I'm sorry, you didn't get the Mesa brothers. You should have been offering this kid. I mean, he's 16 years old, so he's still got a lot of baseball ahead of him before he hits the majors.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm not going to say you offer him the whole bank. You offer him a pretty good portion of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I heard they lowballed him, and the agent literally, like, I don't want to say laughed on the call, but that's kind of what the story that I heard was the agent pretty much was like, thanks, but don't call me anymore.
Right. Well, it comes down to the Orioles are just a mess right now. They don't have leadership from the top down. They have no GM or no manager in place.
You have nobody that understands international baseball, by the way.
Right. And that's the other thing to it. Like, they have not been in the international market for so long. They don't have the respect in the international market. They don't have the relationships down there. Nowhere near what the Tampa Bay Rays and the Miami Marlins, the guys that are down there right next door to the international market, basically, and to the Cubans and that kind of thing. They've got the relationships down there. They've built that.
But I'm going to say this: it's not just location, because there's teams like LA. There's teams like
absolutely
like
Seattle. It just so happens that they're in their backyard.
Yeah, no,
literally. So I would have liked to have seen the Orioles get these guys, especially the Mesa brothers. It's a big miss, and it sucks. But the bigger move right now is solidifying the GM and solidifying management and solidifying your scouting department and getting all that together. You got to have that. And there have not been any talks. There have not been any, we talked about a few rumors and names that have been floated around, but nothing solid, nothing that's actually come to fruition or anything yet.
And I said, by the way, remember back, I said they weren't going to make an announcement until November 1st.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
we'll see what happens, and maybe they can prove me wrong over the next week. But I just don't see this happening.
It's frustrating.
And now it's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, Scott. It's your week for the 2-minute warning today.
Shake it off.
Lee, if you're listening in, stay tuned. Got some relatable news here in the 2-minute warning that might sound a little familiar to you. All right, Scott, your 2-minute warning, it starts right meow.
All right, the NHL season is underway, and the Washington Capitals have started to defend their cup. Currently sitting at 4-2-2 on the year. They are tied for second in that Metro division. But Ovi, Oshie, and Kuzi, yeah, they're all off to hot starts this year. Doesn't look to be much of a championship hangover in D.C. to me. Staying in D.C., the Wizards kicked off their NBA season, and after losing the first 2 games in tough fashion to the Heat and Raptors, they were finally able to get the first overtime win on Monday in Portland, 125-124. Too close for comfort. They're missing Dwight Howard, who is yet to play for the Wiz and is dealing with some back issues, and the team desperately needs his rebounding presence in the middle. Tonight's matchup, yeah, they're going against the 2-time defending champs, the Warriors. This is going to be a tight one. In other local news, there is another Flacco making headlines in Baltimore. Yes, Tom Flacco, brother of Ravens QB Joe Flacco. He's been named Offensive Player of the Year, of the week, for the 3rd time this season in the CAA. The younger Flacco transferred from Rutgers to Towson Tigers and has led the team to 6-1 start this year. They travel to Delaware this week to take on his brother's alma mater in what should be the battle of the best, with Delaware being 5-2 on the season. A jury on Wednesday convicted 3 defendants accused of pay-for-play schemes to influence high-profile basketball recruits to attend Kansas, Louisville, and NC State. The individuals were found guilty on felony charges of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud after a 3-week criminal trial in federal court in New York. The Big Ten determined that the Michigan State violated the policy when its football team walked across the field and linked arms and initiated contact with a couple members of Michigan's team who were legitimately on the field during pregame warmups. Consequently, Michigan State has been reprimanded and fined $10,000 as a result of the violation.
Oh, you almost got it in there.
Almost.
Right at the very end. That was pretty good.
Some other things were handed down there as far as some penalties, but
Lee and I were talking. Lee's a guy I work with, and him and I were talking at work. He was talking about the Towson Tigers thing with Flacco, and he was talking about the basketball news and everything. He's like, I pretty much gave you all your content for tonight. He's like, you can thank me later. So there you go, Lee.
Nice.
Appreciate the help there with the show. Oh man, been another week.
It's been a rough week.
It has,
but great show, as always. Episode 68 in the books. And we want to remind all of our fans, check us out, www.birdlandbs.com. You can find our episodes there. You can learn about me, learn about Fred, learn about Ryan. You can contact all of us. And check out our Birdland BS gear. I got the hat on right now. I love it. But you can also check us out with some other sport podcasters and writers on birdlandsports.com. There's enough content there for you every day of the week. It's for fans, by fans. You can also check us out on all of our social media accounts. Fred over there, he's at FredBLBS. I'm at ScottBLBS and at BirdlandBS, all on Twitter. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, just search Birdland BS. You'll find us. Like, follow, and subscribe once you're there, and share it to be a part of the Birdland BS Nation. You want to have your topic or opinion heard and hear us talk about it? Use the hashtag BLBSNation, and your opinion may come up on the show. Always be sure to check out the audio podcast as well on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or any podcasting app of your choice. We're on every platform that you can think of. As always, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next Tuesday night. That's right. We're going to get it right next week. Tuesday night. I have to have dental surgery actually tomorrow. Had to go through it yesterday. For Birdland BS, I'm Scott.
I'm Fred.
We'll see you guys.
Bye-bye.